Hello everyone, welcome to NCERT Biology Simplified. In this video, we will be studying reproduction, which is chapter 1 of class 12th Biology NCERT. This video is useful for CBSE students and each concept will be explained in a very simple and exam-oriented way. In this part, we will be covering lifespan, reproduction, types of reproduction, vegetative propagation, and basic idea of asexual and sexual reproduction. So let's begin with lifespan. So as you see here, lifespan. Lifespan is basically a period of birth to natural death of an organism. So what you have to remember here is just the definition, and all you have to memorize is the words period, birth, natural death, organism, and then you have to combine them. Lifespan is defined as period of birth to natural death of an organism, and basically that is lifespan. And then we have reproduction. So reproduction is a biological process of an organism where it births the young ones. In biology, we prefer to use the term offspring. And then the offspring grows and mature and produce new offspring. So basically, reproduction is a growth of birth and death. Or you can say it can be defined as cycle of growth, birth, and death. So basically, what we learned here was lifespan and reproduction. Lifespan is everything totaling from birth to natural death of organisms, and reproduction is a part of the lifespan where there is one individual or organism, they give birth to a young one or offspring which further grows, matures, and then they produce new offspring. And then we come to types of reproduction. So we might be aware there are two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. So asexual reproduction is from a single parent which produces offspring which can be with or without gamete formation. And in sexual, the difference is there are two parents and there is a whole reproductive process, and it involves fusion of both male and female gametes. And then the question might come to you, what is a gamete? Gamete is basically a reproductive cell of an animal and a plant. Okay. And if it is an animal, it can be categorized as female gamete and male gamete. We're going to study it further later when we will be discussing sexual reproduction. So for this part, all you need to memorize is there are two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Asexual is with a single parent. Sexual is with two parents. There is an offspring, and here they give rise to offspring through a full reproductive process. This is with or without gamete formation, and in sexual there is a fusion of male and female gametes. And then we come to asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction is single parent is capable of producing an offspring. They are not identical to one another, but they are actually exact copies of each other because they are being produced from one. So there is no way that they will be different. They will be looking alike. So here we use the term clone in biologically. So clone means morphologically and genetically similar individual, and clone is a term that is basically used in connection with asexual reproduction only. And then as in your books, 3 examples have been categorized. So of course we need to learn this. Asexual reproduction. In protist and monerans, organism or a parent cell divides into two and a new individual is formed. So here basically cell is dividing, which is a mode of reproduction. In amoeba and paramecium, paramecium, same thing. It's the one word. Organism reproduce by binary fission. So what happens is basically binary means two. So cell divides into two halves and then they grow into the adults. And yeast division is very unequal. So if there is a yeast, you see little buds will arise here. They will attach to parent cell, and after that they will get separated and mature into yeast cell. Okay. And in kingdom fungi and algae, they reproduce through special asexual reproductive structures which are called zoospores, and it can be an important question. So zoospores are basically the reproductive structures, or they can be defined as microscopic motile structures. And in others, the examples you need to learn the name. Conidia is in Penicillium. Buds are a mode of reproduction in Hydra, and gemmules are mode of reproduction in sponge. And then we come to vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation, first thing you need to remember is it is an asexual mode of reproduction. It is not sexual. So it is a form of asexual reproduction in plants. An individual grows from vegetative parts like stems, roots, leaves, buds of parent plant. So the most common example is potato. Obviously in your home you might have seen little buds or vegetation growing on the potatoes. They are defined as eyes. So that means another potato will be forming from there. And in ginger they are called as rhizosomes. In bryophyllum they are called leaf buds, and in water hyacinth they are offsets. Then we will get some idea of sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction is basically a more elaborate, complex and slow process when you compare it to the asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, two individuals are required, because as we studied earlier, this is a fusion of male and female gamete which forms a zygote, which forms an organism. So it results in organisms that are not identical to parents. And all organisms have to reach a certain age to reproduce sexually, which is called juvenile phase. So it's not like you are two and you can be, a part of sexual reproduction. No, every individual involved in this, whether animals or whether humans, they have to reach a certain age to reproduce sexually. So that phase is called juvenile phase. And then in case of plants, it is known as vegetative phase. So that is the thing you need to remember, vegetative phase and juvenile phase. Okay. And then we have events in sexual reproduction. We have pre-fertilization, fertilization, post-fertilization. We will go over all of them one by one. So pre-fertilization is gametogenesis and gene transfer. So gametogenesis is made up of two words, as you can see, gamete and genesis. And genesis means formation, so it is defined as formation of gametes. Okay, and now we have studied earlier, gametes are two types of gametes, male and female. So what you have to remember is male gametes are known as anthrozoids or sperms, and female gametes are egg or ovum, and gametes are haploid cells. Okay, so this is something you have to memorize. So gametes are haploid cells, and there are two types, male and female. Male are called anthrozoid or sperm, females are egg or ovum. And then there is a gamete transfer in pre-fertilization. So male and female gamete, they fuse, or you can say they fertilize. And always remember who is the motile one. M for male, M for motile. So male gamete is the motile one and female gamete is stationary. But in cases of fungi and algae, both gametes are motile. Then they say what happens in case of a seed plant. So they say pollens are the, you have to remember this, it's a good MCQ question as well as Viva question. Pollens are basically the carriers of male gametes, and where are they produced? They are produced in anthers, and they are transferred via stigma, and that leads to fertilization. But in biosexual plants which are self-fertilizing like peas, this transfer is very easy because anther and stigma are very close to each other. Then we have a term called pollination. So in case of dioecious plant, pollen grains, they will germinate on stigma, and then they are not being carried by anybody. They are being carried by pollen tubes. Pollen tubes are carrying these pollen grains or male gametes, and then they reach the ovule, and then they discharge the male gametes into or near the egg. In case of dioecious animals, two different individuals are involved for successful gamete transfer. So in fertilization, so what you need to remember in pre-fertilization, let's go over it again. You need to do gametogenesis and gamete transfer, and few other terms that you need to remember is pollens, anther, stigma, pollination, and then dioecious plants and dioecious animals. And then we have fertilization. Fertilization is syngamy. It is the fusion of gametes to form a diploid zygote. And then in case of rotifers, honeybees, and some birds like turkey, there is no fertilization. Female gametes undergo a process that is called parthenogenesis. Now the question is, where is the syngamy occurring? So in case of algae, fishes, amphibians, it occurs in external medium, and of course fishes, algae, amphibians, their external medium is water, so of course it is outside the body, and the process is called external fertilization. But then they say there is one disadvantage to it. Obviously they are laying down their offsprings out in the environment, so the survival chances are less because there will be predators that will be threatening their lives, right? And then there is terrestrial organisms like fungi, higher animals, reptiles, and mammals. So it occurs inside the body of organism, and it's an internal fertilization. So what happens here is egg is basically inside the female body and fused with male gamete. Okay, and here mobility again, so we have to remember male gamete is mobile one. And then we have the post-fertilization events. In post-fertilization events, they are defined as events in sexual reproduction after the formation of the zygote. So let's understand the difference again between pre-fertilization, fertilization, post-fertilization. In pre-fertilization, gamete is basically being formed and gamete is being transferred. In fertilization, a diploid zygote is formed, and in post-fertilization is what happens after the formation of zygote. So let's see what's the definition of zygote first. So zygote is formation of diploid zygote is unisexual in all the is universal in all the sexual reproducing organisms. So that means this is necessary. Without zygote, nothing is happening. Okay, and in case of fungi and algae, zygote develops a thick wall and then there is a resting phase. So let's say this is the zygote. It will have a thick wall. It will rest for some time before it hatches out or comes out. And then there is embryogenesis. After zygote formation, the second step is embryogenesis, the process of development of embryo from zygote. Okay, so in post-fertilization, what is happening? Zygote, which is turning into an embryo. So they say there are two processes involved in it. There is cell division and cell differentiation. So let's understand the difference between division and differentiation. Division is basically divide. So it is helping to increase the number of cells. Whereas differentiation is, it will help, like let's say there are two cells. Okay, so cell differentiation is gonna help this to modify into let's say a triangular structure, but this will help to modify it into a square structure. So it is basically helps group of cells to undergo certain modification to form specialized tissues or organs. And then they say in animals we have oviparous and viviparous. Oviparous example is reptiles and birds, and there viviparous is basically humans and majority of mammals. The fertilized eggs in oviparous are covered by hard calcareous shells laid in safe plane in environment. And here zygote develops into young one inside the body of the female organism. After incubation, the young ones hatch out, but here after attaining a certain age of growth, young ones are delivered out of the body. And remember, chances of survival here are more because we have proper embryonic care and protection. So this pretty much covers everything that's in chapter first of the reproduction unit in class 12th biology NCERT. So if you have any doubts, you can pin down in the comments, or if you want to go over the question and answers, that is the exercise mentioned in the end of the chapter, we can go over through it. And I'm gonna make another video on next two chapters and it will be out soon. Thank you.